1. Okay, bit of backstory for this. We own a piece of property in a small satellite city just outside of the large main city nearby. At the time, the city council was, well, let's be blunt, it was corrupt as hell and everybody knew it. Anyway, that piece of property was on the Main Street zoned residential. There was a push to get all of the Main Street zoned commercial, so they could expand and get more tax money. So hey, we own a business further down the street that is running out of room for inventory. We'll rezone the residential house, knock it down, and build a storage facility for the backstock. We jumped through every hoop the council threw at us. Went to lengths even the city planner thought were ridiculous. And they just kept rejecting the rezoning request. During the whole thing, we kept getting offers to buy the plot for pennies on the dollar. See, the office complex on the other side of the lot wanted to expand, and the offices were owned by one of the board members. You see where this is going. Board member wanted to buy the lot for a song, immediately rezone it, build an expansion, and then sell it all for a huge profit. Nope, we weren't having it. So then they started harassing us over every little detail, mowing the yard. If we didn't mow it every week, if it needed it or not, we got the official letter from the city threatening us with fines. So we made sure to keep it mowed every week. Then they demanded we paint the trim or be fined because it was an eyesore now. Oh, that's how you want to play it. Fine. We all got 3 gallons of paint, I think it was, and painted the trim, the porch, everything, so it was horrendously thin, with rollers. See, the rule was we had to paint. Nothing said anything about the quality of the paint job as long as it was painted. It looked like a 2-year-old colored a picture of a house with a crayon. A 2-year-old with Parkinson's. And city couldn't say a word because it was indeed freshly painted. Eventually the city condemned the house and demanded we tear it down at our expense, or they'd fine us some huge amount per day, so we tore it down, and erected an outhouse in the middle of the lot where the house used to be. A classic cartoon-style house, complete with the crescent moon cut out on the door. All nicely painted, and we even made a little white fence around it. If anyone asks to buy it, we ask for the price it would fetch as a Main Street commercial property. City eventually gave up, but we also stopped trying to get it rezoned as we made arrangements for storage elsewhere. So now there's just a very nice picturesque outhouse in the middle of a small field, on what is essentially Main Street in this small town. Because it is in the south, and the bylaws specifically still say that an outhouse is acceptable to be on private residential property. 2. Last night I was finishing up my draft for a 10-page essay that's due for my final, and it's 2 a.m. and I'm hungry. So I decide to go get food somewhere. The place I go to has some bar seats and there's 3 other people there in a group. I sit down and get 2 orders of fries and talk to my waitress for probably 15 minutes, and she's an absolute sweetheart. We were talking about college and all the stress, and the entire time those 3 boys were cutting in. Not trying to be rude, kinda just repeating and agreeing with our points. I guess this made them feel justified with telling me my math was wrong later. This whole time I'm eating my fries, and they're delicious, for 2 a.m. garbage food. When I'm done, I get my bill, and my total is $6.34. I put down $10 because that's the smallest bill I've got, and I liked her, so I tell her to keep the change. I'm getting up to leave, and one of the boys stops me and says, "You overtipped her. She should have gotten like 60 cents. And I just stopped for like 10 seconds trying to process what just happened before replying, "That's not even 10%. And I liked her, so I gave her more. What's it to you?" He shrugs at me and says, "I just thought you'd want to know." His friends look awkward but not embarrassed or surprised, and I'm just trying to figure out what I did to lead him to think I wanted his advice. While I'm being silent, he continues, "It's just, when you do that, then they get expectant and treat us like shit when we give them the right amount." Which is wrong because standards where I am are 15%, and he wanted me to give 9%. It's 2 a.m. and I'm not having this. I had a good time with a really nice waitress and good fries, and I'm exhausted. I work in retail and I am used to being yelled at and berated by customers over coupons. I just think to myself, okay, This is your chance to finally get it over on one of these shitheads. I look this boy in the face, and as I'm digging through my purse, I tell him, "You're right. I should change my tip." He nods at me, and I pull out the only other cash I have on hand, which is $20, and I marched right over to the waitress and hand her it, and give him my best customer service smile voice, and thank the customer for the idea, and leave. 3. I used to be an assistant manager of this coffee store that was part of a pretty large chain. 3 important things to note. 1. Our menus had a picture of a latte on the front with perfect latte art. 2. We are trained not to do latte art because uniformity. 3. Our flat whites had absolutely no foam on top, so latte art was completely out of the question. Now, one day at lunch, this man ordered a flat white and wanted it quickly because he was in a rush. No biggie. He was a bit rude and very specific about his drink, so I thought I'd better make it to save the junior staff. I took the order, made the drink, handed it out, and went back to the till. Next thing, the angry old man storms to the front of the 15-person queue with his half-drunk coffee and starts yelling at me. The conversation goes like this. "What is this?" "A flat white in a mug." "I wanted one of these," pointing to the menu. "Oh, a takeaway cup." "Sorry." "No, this." Points harder. "Oh, a latte." "No, a flat white that doesn't look like pure shit. Let me speak to the man in charge." Okay. I usually have a lot of patience for customers, but surely he knew this wouldn't go over well. I told him that at the time our whole staff were women. He asked me to go grab the manager because he knew she was hiding out the back. So I did that. I went out the back of the shop and came back, this time with my manager badge on, and reintroduced myself as the manager. This seemed to piss him off even more, but I was having a great time. He then asked me to go and yank the barista off the machine that made his coffee, so he could talk to him. Of course. I walked over to the machine and threw myself off it, walked back to the register and reintroduced myself as the barista. He told me that he'd been to plenty of other locations of our chain and had always received much nicer drinks than what we'd made. He asked me to make him a latte to our company's usual standard. I remade his drink for him, a latte to our company's exact standard. This, of course, did not include a pretty picture on top. I took it over to him, along with our training manual, scales, and a thermometer to prove the drink was up to our exact specifications. He was not happy, but he could see that he couldn't exactly argue with me. I made it very clear that this drink was exactly what he ordered. We would not be able to remake it again. More importantly, though, I told him that he would not be welcome in our store if he chooses to talk to servers like that, because I would not risk the behavior towards any of my staff. He thanked me for making him late, and also remarked that this coffee tasted much better than the dirt I had originally served him. Moral of this story is, don't be rude to your barista, especially when they don't have anything better to do than comply with your requests exactly. 4. So a while back, I was right out of high school and working a temp seasonal job at a clothing store that rhymes with Tracy's. I usually work in the men's department, since I can actually help people pick out clothes there. But on this day, the only shift open was what can best be described as a section for teenage girls who somehow are into high fashion, yet also shop at a store rhyming with Tracy's. Needless to say, I didn't see many customers that day. Unfortunately, one of the few I did see was completely batshit. So this woman arrives and wants to make a return on a dress. She's not exactly our usual clientele in that section, seeing as she is 50 and overweight, and the entire time she's acting like I'm an idiot. But whatever, I process the return. I refund it to her credit card, and I think everything is fine until she asks about her coupon. Now, there is absolutely no way for me to refund a coupon in this situation. In fact, I am pretty sure no store has ever refunded a coupon in the history of coupons. In this case, I literally had no mechanism for looking up what coupon had been used, and even if I did, I can't exactly reprint coupons at the register. So I calmly informed this woman that I am not able to refund her coupon. as I have no way of seeing if one was even used on this purchase. She really doesn't like that. She immediately accuses me of scamming her and starts screaming that this is the worst company in the world, because they evidently sent her this coupon for like $5 off on her birthday, and now she can't get her birthday coupon back. I'm not exaggerating, full on screaming. After I try to calmly explain the situation again, and even show her the screen at the register to illustrate my point, she starts demanding the manager. I warn her that the manager is just going to tell her the exact same thing I am, but that doesn't matter. She screams that she wants to speak to my manager. Now, I'll admit, I was a lot more petty at 18 than I am today. So I immediately put on a huge smile and said, of course, I'll contact my manager. I then proceeded to call my manager. Now, keep in mind I usually work in the men's section. The men's section is as far away in this store as you can get from where I was working on this day, and it's a pretty huge store. So without any hesitation, I call my manager, and calmly say I have a customer upset about a return and she would like to speak to him. He says he's dealing with the situation and will be a bit, but he'll be there as soon as possible. So for the next 30 minutes I stood and stared at this woman, trying not to laugh as she completely lost her mind. This screaming about the company being the worst on earth eventually progressed to me being the worst cashier on earth. Several customers came to check out before being quickly scared off to another register. The only thing I kept telling this woman about once every 10 minutes was that the manager will be there soon. I'm not a monster, so after about 30 minutes of this, I decided I should probably get back to doing my actual job. I told the woman I would try a different manager and called the one actually assigned to my area. She arrived in under a minute. After I explained the situation, and that my normal manager had inexplicably taken 30 minutes to arrive, she immediately told the woman the exact thing I had told her, and then sent me off to tidy some racks while she figured out a way to get the woman out of the store. I couldn't hear both sides of the conversation after that, but based on how pissed that lunatic sounded, she never got her coupon. The funniest thing, though, was that about 10 minutes after this thing resolved, I go back to man the register. Just as the first manager I called comes sprinting over, completely winded, asking what the situation is, I tell him the other manager handled it, and he explained that there was an issue on one of the dressing rooms that took him a while to deal with. I still regret not asking about what situation in the dressing rooms took him 50 fucking minutes to resolve. A lot of people are asking how the second manager didn't hear this for 30 minutes. The location of my register was 20 feet from the speakers for the cosmetics department, some other women's section, and the polo section of the men's department. Each of those was blasting a different shitty cover of a Christmas song, so at my register there was this ungodly, completely incomprehensible mess of sound. That was combined with a crowded store of holiday shoppers, so I doubt you could hear her from a department over, which is where that manager was. 5. This happened about 5 years ago when ransomware just came into inception, and it had not yet hit mainstream coverage. Example, CryptLocker 1.0, so there was barely any information or process for recovery. At the time, I was working for a boutique managed service provider, MSP, and I had the opportunity to onboard a new customer who had just signed a managed agreement with us. They had come from having an internal sysadmin. Let's call him Jeff, who was a 6'3" chubby Ranga who smelt like he showered once a week and was dubbed the Dirty Ranga there onwards. Jeff was not achieving business goals and the business wasn't getting the tick they deserved. During handover, I was tasked with performing an initial audit and gathering information from Jeff to ensure a smooth transition. Every question Jeff answered was, "I don't know, you'll figure it out," or "talk to this third-party person." After getting credentials to the server, I concluded that's all that was required and locked out his access until his 2 weeks' notice was finished. To put shortly, this entire environment was a mess. They had 2 businesses in one premises, parent company, side business, running from a single ADSL2 connection with no redundancy, backups, or network separation. Skip forward a few months of hard work and implementation of best practices, backups, monitoring, security, multi-internet WAN failover, etc. They were starting to look healthier, minus the businesses being on the same subnet and firewall, as they needed access for files for each of the businesses. It's around this time I've learned that the business is IT illiterate, and simple problems were a huge deal. If I was to give an example, it would be as bad as teaching my grandma that her mouse won't work when it's unplugged, but add in anger and threats and calls from their CFO threatening to drop the managed contract. Now, the CFO for the group was an elderly 60s to 70s old-school prick, who always woke up in the wrong side of bed. Let's call him Shane. Shane would refuse to pay for antivirus because free AVG is the best, as well as other necessary upgrades that wouldn't allow for any downtime, even out of hours for maintenance. 9 to 8 PM business, mind you. Alright, context over. Let's get to the MC part of the story. It was a Tuesday, roughly 2 PM, right after I get back from my lunch break at the gym. I receive a call from one of the accountants telling me that she can't open any of her Excel files. I went through the normal process of figuring out what has happened, and determining if it's a Layer 8 PEPCAC problem, etc. Now, I had been reading an article earlier in the day on rsysadmin about this virus, a form of data manipulation program that was renaming files to -encrypted and encrypting its data. There was a payment gateway asking for $600 to unencrypt data, in broken English, and that was about it. I asked the accountant what's the file name of one of the documents she can't open. She says something along the lines of company name, -team, -budget name, -year, -version, .-encrypted. And my heart sinks immediately. Why are you naming files like that, crazy lady? There is a limit of characters. Also, I log onto the server and immediately search for the encrypted wildcard on their 3 file servers. I find that 2 servers are almost completely encrypted, and I can see a few folders on the 3rd that are cooked. There was no way to tell where it started. All user profiles were encrypted. I let the accountant know I need to turn off the file servers now, as they've been hit with a virus that is eating all their files. She panics as the CFO is away until the next day, and the owner is overseas as of the prior Saturday for leave and light work. We discussed, assessed the risks, and agreed to shut the file servers down until we can figure out what happened. Turns out the spread now went to both businesses and it was a huge mess. If only they invested in separation of infrastructure. I had raised the situation with my technical leader and continued working through the issue myself, while everyone started to frantically question the almighty Google. I didn't turn off the servers, but stopped everyone from accessing the file servers so nothing else would get encrypted, and started recovering data with an 18-hour recovery ETA. I start scanning all computers, trying to find the entry point, using every tool available at the time. Nothing was coming up. Antivirus had no chance of detecting it. I'm emailing the customer updates throughout this time. It's now 3 AM and I cannot find the infected PC or server at all. Shitting bricks about what I was going to do in 4 hours. I emailed the client's upper management again with an update on the status and head to bed. I couldn't sleep. Got up at 6 and headed straight to the site to see if there's any miscellaneous devices that might be causing the problem. I walk in, start checking computers that are never touched, and then I hear this growl. It's Shane walking in the front door with a scrunched up face, looking at me dead in the eyes as if I slept with his wife. Shane stomps up to me in front of all the staff on the floor, 20 to 25 staff, yells at me, "Why the fuck have my staff not been working since yesterday? Who do you think you are?" I of course ask if he had the chance to read my emails. This doesn't float well and I get yelled at more. I try to explain in the most simplest way possible so he will understand. If the servers come back online and the ransomware is still running, the files that aren't encrypted and the restored data could get encrypted again, and you'll be waiting even longer. His face gets even more red. "I don't give a flying fuck, OP. Turn the servers on now. You're costing the business XYZ. I try to explain that it will be a disaster. He's not having it, and continues to yell at me in front of all his staff, then storms off to his office, yelling on his way to turn it all back on. I've been berated in front of all the staff and I'm just over it, dead tired. I simply shout, "Okay, turning it on," I sit down, take a big swig of my coffee, log in and turn it all back on around 8 AM. Everyone is connected and happy to be working again. I message my boss what just went down and he's in amazement. Lets me know I can leave site if it's too much. I stay around to continue looking for the miscellaneous devices causing this hell. About an hour passes. People start complaining they can't access their data again. I log in, do a double over. Oh dear, what's this? Everything, literally every server is encrypted now. 20 servers. I pack up my laptop, grab my coffee, and I walk out of the office with the biggest smirk on my face and head home for a long, long sleep. 5 days later, 20 servers restored from offsite backups. CFO has submitted his resignation after a long meeting with the CEO, and the owner owns up to opening an Ozpost email attachment while on the VPN in Hawaii, while logged in as a domain admin account that the very dirty Ranga gave to the owner before he left. My bad. And we dropped the client 2 weeks later. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream number 14. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. For those who are interested, I'd recently put a Revenge is Ice Cream themed t-shirt up in my Redbubble store. Just a little cartoon illustration with the title Revenge is Ice Cream on there. If you like, head over and take a look. Also, if Redbubble sucks as a store, do let me know and I'll change my merchandise over to something more reputable. Well, it's actually sunny today, at least it was last time I popped my head out. So I'm going to try and get done a little bit early, and I might be able to enjoy the sun. It's currently 2 in the afternoon here. So, let's see, all my recording's done. I should be able to get editing and everything done in the next few hours, hopefully, maybe, possibly. Yeah, I've also got some things coming from Amazon, some tea things. I've been wanting to try some ginger tea, and I heard of I don't know if you guys ever do this, but if you hear of something in like a book or a TV show or a movie or something, you think, that sounds odd, I've never heard of that before, and then you go and buy it to try it. So that's what I've done here. There's a series of books I read called Anno Dracula. And in the third book of that series, the character Charles Beauregard, it's mentioned that he has a fondness for gunpowder green tea. And I've tried a number of green teas. I've never tried that particular variety. So I've ordered a little thing of that, and it's loose leaf, so I had to make sure I got a little infuser to come with it. I usually just get bags. And so we'll see what that's like. And that was a rather odd tangent to go on. Okay, I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.